If someone had told me the woman who built an empire from ashes would risk it all for her secretary, I wouldn't have believed it. The 42nd floor of the Kingsley Tower pierced through Aurelia City's skyline like a steel needle. Its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a commanding view of the city that never slept. Inside the corner office, Vivian Kingsley stood motionless, her silhouette sharp against the backdrop of glittering lights below. At 34, she had built an empire worth $12 billion. Transforming a modest family business into a global powerhouse that made grown men in boardrooms tremble. Ms. Kingsley, the quarterly reports are ready for your review, announced Maureen, her outgoing secretary of 8 years, placing a stack of documents on the pristine mahogany desk. Maureen's voice carried the weight of someone who had witnessed Vivian's meteoric rise, and understood the unspoken rules that governed this domain. Vivian turned slowly, her emerald eyes scanning the papers with the precision of a hawk. Her platinum blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect shiny, not a strand out of place. Her charcoal Armani suit was cut to absolute precision, showcasing her tall, refined silhouette while projecting an aura of unreachable command. The Henderson acquisition, Vivian said, voice crisp, each syllable deliberate. Finalized this morning. They accepted our terms without a single counter, Maureen replied, a faint admiration coloring her tone. Vivian gave a brief nod. Exactly as she'd anticipated. In her world, feelings were liabilities and sentiment a luxury she refused to indulge. Every choice was calculated. Every step, strategic. She'd learned early that any sign of weakness invited exploitation, and in the brutal arena of corporate America, weakness was fatal. The intercom buzzed. Miss Kingsley, your 3 o'clock is here, came the receptionist's voice. Send them up, Vivian said, eyes never leaving the financial projections spread across her desk. As Maureen gathered her things, closing out a career and preparing for retirement, she paused at the doorway. Vivian, she said softly, using the first name she'd avoided for years, I hope you find someone who can keep pace with you. This place? It needs life. Vivian's fingers stilled, but she didn't look up. What this place needs is efficiency, Maureen. Nothing more. The door closed with a muted click, leaving her alone with the low thrum of the city and the weight of the empire she'd engineered. She had built these walls, brick by brick, rule by rule, until she was untouchable. The Ice Queen, the business magazines called her. She wore it like armor. Her phone buzzed, a text from HR. New secretary starts Monday. Maya Alvarez, 26, MBA from Columbia, fluent in 3 languages. Strong references. Vivian dismissed the message with a swipe and no reply. Secretaries came and went like seasons. They either couldn't handle the pressure or got too comfortable and forgot their place. She had 3 simple rules that had never been broken. Maintain professional distance. Never discuss personal matters. And always remember who was in charge. As the sun set over Aurelia City, casting long shadows across her office, Vivian Kingsley had no idea that in 3 days a young woman with dark eyes and an unshakable spirit would walk through her door and challenge everything she thought she knew about control. The weekend passed in its usual routine, reviewing contracts at her penthouse. A solitary dinner with a glass of Bordeaux, and early morning runs through Crown Park, where the only sounds were her footsteps and the distant hum of awakening traffic. Vivian's life was a masterpiece of precision. Every moment accounted for, every variable controlled. Monday morning arrived with the crisp bite of October air, and Vivian was already at her desk by 6 a.m. As always, the city was just beginning to stir below, but she had already reviewed 3 contracts and approved 2 merger proposals. This was her sanctuary, her kingdom, where she reigned supreme and unchallenged. At exactly 8 a.m., there was a knock on her door. Come in, Vivian called without looking up from her computer screen. The door opened and Vivian's world shifted imperceptibly on its axis, though she wouldn't realize it until much later. Maya Alvarez stepped into the office with the confidence of someone who had never learned to be intimidated. At 26, she possessed a rare combination of intelligence and fearlessness that had carried her from a modest apartment in Queens to the top of her MBA class at Columbia. Her dark hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders, and her brown eyes held a warmth that seemed almost foreign in the sterile corporate environment. Good morning, Miss Kingsley. I'm Maya Alvarez, your new secretary, she said, her voice clear and steady as she approached the desk. Vivian looked up for the first time, and something unexpected happened. She paused, not the calculated pause she used in negotiations, but a genuine moment of surprise. Maya wasn't what she had expected. There was no nervous fidgeting, no obvious attempt to impress. Instead, the young woman stood with quiet confidence, meeting Vivian's gaze directly. "You're early," Vivian observed, her tone neutral, but her eyes studying Maya with the intensity she usually reserved for hostile takeovers. "I believe in being prepared," Maya replied with a slight smile. "I've already reviewed your schedule for the week, familiarized myself with your current projects, and taken the liberty of organizing the filing system. I noticed some inefficiencies that could be streamlined." Vivian's eyebrow arched slightly. In 8 years, Maureen had never once suggested improvements to her systems. Inefficiencies. Maya moved to the filing cabinet with fluid grace, pulling out a folder. "Your client files are organized alphabetically, but given the frequency of access, a priority-based system would save approximately 15 minutes per day. I've prepared a proposal." She placed a neatly typed document on Vivian's desk. The analysis was thorough, the logic sound, and the presentation flawless. Vivian found herself genuinely impressed, though her expression remained carefully neutral. "Presumptuous," Vivian said finally. "Efficient," Maya countered without missing a beat. That same slight smile playing at her lips. For a moment, the office fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic 42 floors below. Vivian was accustomed to immediate deference to people who said, "Yes, ma'am." And of course, Miss Kingsley without question. Maya's quiet confidence was unexpected. "Your first task," Vivian said, turning back to her computer, "is to reschedule my lunch with Senator Aldridge." "Something's come up." "Already done," Maya replied smoothly. "When I saw the Henderson acquisition finalized this morning, I anticipated you'd want to focus on the integration meeting. I moved Senator Aldridge to Thursday and confirmed with his office 20 minutes ago." Vivian's fingers still on the keyboard. She turned slowly to face Maya, her green eyes sharp with surprise and something that might have been approval. "You took that initiative without consulting me." "I took the initiative because it was the logical choice," Maya said, her tone respectful but unwavering. "If I've overstepped, I apologize. But I assumed you hired me to think, not just to follow orders blindly." The silence stretched between them, charged with an energy Vivian couldn't quite identify. She was used to controlling every variable, every outcome. Maya Alvarez was proving to be a variable she hadn't accounted for. "The integration meeting is at 2, Vivian said finally. "I'll need the Aldridge Industries file, the quarterly projections, and coffee." "Black, no sugar already on your desk," Maya said, gesturing to the items that had appeared while Vivian was focused on her computer. "And I took the liberty of adding the environmental impact report. Given Aldridge Industries' recent sustainability push, it might be relevant." Vivian looked down at her desk, then back at Maya. In the span of 30 minutes, this young woman had anticipated her needs, improved her systems, and demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that most of her executives lacked. "Miss Alvarez," Vivian said slowly, "I have 3 rules in this office. First, maintain professional distance. Second, never discuss personal matters. Third, always remember who's in charge. Do we understand each other?" Maya's smile widened slightly. And for just a moment, Vivian caught a glimpse of something playful in those dark eyes. "Perfectly, Miss Kingsley. Though I should mention, I have a rule of my own, which is I don't break easily." With that, Maya turned and walked toward the door, leaving Vivian staring after her with a mixture of irritation and intrigue she hadn't felt in years. As the door closed behind her new secretary, Vivian realized that for the first time in a very long time, she had no idea what to expect next. Outside her office, Maya took a deep breath and allowed herself a small smile. She had done her research on Vivian Kingsley, the Ice Queen, the woman who had never lost a negotiation, who had built an empire on the foundation of absolute control. But Maya had also seen something else in those emerald eyes. Something Vivian probably didn't even know was there. Vulnerability. And Maya Alvarez had never been the type to retreat from a challenge. 3 weeks into her tenure, the 42nd floor of Kingsley Tower had settled into an almost invisible cadence. At 6 a.m., Vivian arrived to find coffee at the precise temperature, a ruthlessly optimized calendar, and files arranged with an efficiency that felt nearly clairvoyant. Maya wasn't merely competent, she was exceptional, anticipating needs Vivian hadn't yet articulated. On a Tuesday morning, the first hairline fracture appeared in Vivian's meticulously erected defenses. "Miss Kingsley," Maya's voice came over the intercom, "your mother is on line 1. Vivian's hand stalled midway to her coffee cup. She hadn't spoken to Genevieve Kingsley in 6 months, not since their last blowout over Vivian's unhealthy obsession with work and her supposed incapacity for meaningful relationships. "Tell her I'm in a meeting," Vivian said, clipped. "I did." She said she'll wait. "Tell her I'm in meetings all day." A beat. She said she'll wait all day. Vivian closed her eyes, rubbing at her temples. Genevieve was nothing if not relentless, a trait Vivian had inherited and honed into a weapon. "Put her through," she said at last. "Vivian, darling," came her mother's cultured voice, warm, shaded with that familiar disappointment. "I was beginning to think you'd forgotten you have a family." "Mother, I'm very busy." "What do you need?" "What I need is to see my daughter once in a while. Your father's birthday is next week, and we're having a small gathering at the house. I expect you there." Vivian's jaw tightened. Family gatherings were minefields of personal questions, concerned looks, and thinly veiled criticism about her life choices. "I'll check my schedule." Vivian Kingsley. "You will be there 7 o'clock Saturday. And for once in your life, try to look like you're enjoying yourself." The line went dead. Vivian stared at the phone, feeling the familiar knot of tension in her chest that family obligations always brought. She had built her empire partly to prove herself to parents who had never quite understood her drive. Her need to succeed at any cost. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Maya entered with a fresh cup of coffee and a concerned expression. "Everything all right?" Maya asked, setting the coffee down with careful precision. "Fine," Vivian replied automatically, then caught herself. Personal matters were off limits. Rule number 2. But Maya didn't leave. Instead, she lingered by the desk, her dark eyes studying Vivian with an intensity that made the CEO uncomfortable. "You know," Maya said conversationally, "my grandmother always said that family is like a warm coat. Sometimes it fits perfectly. Sometimes it's too tight, but you still need it when the weather gets cold." Vivian looked up sharply. "I don't recall asking for life advice, Ms. Alvarez." "You didn't," Maya replied with that infuriating smile. "I was just making conversation. Though if you ever want to talk about difficult family dynamics, I have a PhD in that particular subject." Despite herself, Vivian felt a flicker of curiosity. "PhD. 5 siblings, all with opinions about my life choices. A mother who thinks I work too much, and a father who still asks when I'm going to settle down and give him grandchildren." Maya's voice carried a note of shared understanding that Vivian found unexpectedly comforting. "I see," Vivian said carefully. "The trick," Maya continued, perching on the edge of the chair across from Vivian's desk, "is remembering that their concern comes from love, even when it feels like judgment." Vivian stared at her secretary, this young woman who had somehow managed to read her mood and offer exactly the perspective she needed without being asked. It was unsettling and oddly reassuring at the same time. "Miss Alvarez," Vivian said slowly. "Are you always this perceptive?" "Only when it matters," Maya replied, standing to leave. "Oh, and Miss Kingsley, whatever family event you're dreading, you'll survive it. You're stronger than you think." As Maya reached the door, Vivian found herself speaking before she could stop herself. "How did you know?" Maya turned back, her expression gentle. "Because I recognize the look. It's the same one I get when my mother calls to remind me about Sunday dinner." After Maya left, Vivian sat in her office staring out at the Aurelia city skyline. For the first time in years, she felt understood. It was a dangerous feeling, one that threatened the professional distance she had worked so hard to maintain. But as the day progressed, Vivian found herself stealing glances at Maya through the glass partition that separated their spaces. She watched as Maya handled difficult clients with grace, managed competing priorities with ease, and somehow made the sterile office environment feel almost warm. That evening, as Vivian prepared to leave, she found a small note on her desk. "For what it's worth, family gatherings are always easier with good wine and an exit strategy." Vivian stared at the note for a long moment, then carefully folded it and slipped it into her purse. As she walked to the elevator, she realized that for the first time in weeks, she was looking forward to tomorrow. Not because of the meetings or the deals or the power plays that usually energized her, but because of the possibility of another unexpected conversation with the woman who was slowly carefully dismantling her defenses, one small kindness at a time. The Kingsley family estate in the Greyhaven shores sprawled across 15 acres of manicured lawns and pristine gardens, a testament to old money and older traditions. Vivian stood on the marble steps of her childhood home, adjusting her navy Chanel dress and steeling herself for the evening ahead. She had arrived precisely on time, not early enough to seem eager, not late enough to appear rude. Vivian. Genevieve Kingsley swept toward her daughter, resplendent in cream silk and pearls. At 62, she remained a formidable presence, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, and her blue eyes sharp with intelligence and barely concealed worry. "You look thin, darling. Are you eating?" "I'm fine, Mother," Vivian replied, accepting the air kiss that passed for affection in their family. The gathering was indeed small. Perhaps 30 of the Kingsleys' closest friends and family members, all moving through the great hall with the practiced ease of people accustomed to wealth and privilege. Vivian recognized most of the faces, business associates of her father's, family friends who had known her since childhood, and her younger brother Julian with his wife and 2 children. "The prodigal daughter returns," Julian said, approaching with a champagne flute and his trademark sardonic smile. At 31, he had inherited their father's easy charm and their mother's social grace, choosing to work in the family's philanthropic foundation rather than the cutthroat world of corporate expansion. "Julian," Vivian nodded, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "Still married to the office, I see," he continued, his tone light, but his eyes concerned. "When was the last time you took a vacation or went on a date or did anything that didn't involve a spreadsheet?" Vivian's jaw tightened. "My personal life is perfectly fine. Thank you." "What personal life?" Julian shot back, then immediately softened his tone. "Vivian, I'm worried about you. We all are. You're brilliant, successful, beautiful, but you're also completely alone." Before Vivian could respond, her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced down, expecting to see something work-related, but instead found a message from Maya. "Hope the family gathering isn't too painful. Remember? Good wine and an exit strategy. You've got this." Despite herself, Vivian felt a smile tug at her lips. The simple message felt like a lifeline in the sea of well-meaning but suffocating concern surrounding her. "Who's that?" Julian asked, noticing her expression. "You actually smiled. I haven't seen that in years." "No one," Vivian said quickly, slipping her phone back into her purse. "Just work." But Julian was too perceptive to be fooled. "Work doesn't make you smile like that, Vivian." "Who is she?" Vivian's voice was sharper than she intended. "The woman who just made the Ice Queen smile at a family party." "Come on, Vivian. I may be the family disappointment, but I'm not blind." Vivian felt heat rise in her cheeks, an unfamiliar sensation that left her feeling exposed and vulnerable. "It's nothing. She's my secretary." "Ah," Julian said, his smile widening. "And this secretary, she's special." "She's efficient," Vivian replied curtly. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Maya was so much more than efficient. She was intelligent, intuitive, fearless, and somehow capable of seeing through Vivian's carefully constructed facade to the woman underneath. "Vivian, darling." Genevieve appeared at her elbow, accompanied by a distinguished man in his 50s. "I'd like you to meet Alexander Pierce. He's recently divorced and runs a very successful hedge fund." Vivian suppressed a groan. Her mother's matchmaking attempts were legendary in their persistence and their failure rate. "Miss Kingsley," Alexander said, extending his hand with a smile that was probably meant to be charming. "I've heard so much about your business acumen. Perhaps we could discuss some potential collaborations over dinner sometime." "I'm very busy," Vivian replied automatically, shaking his hand briefly before withdrawing. "Nonsense," Genevieve interjected. "Vivian works too much. She needs someone to remind her that there's life outside the office." As Alexander launched into a detailed description of his latest investment strategies, Vivian found her mind wandering to Maya. She thought about their morning conversations. The way Maya challenged her assumptions, the warmth in those dark eyes when she smiled. She thought about how Maya had somehow made the sterile office environment feel like a place where she actually wanted to be. "Don't you think, Vivian?" Alexander was saying. "I'm sorry." Vivian refocused on the conversation. "I was saying that successful people like ourselves need to stick together. Perhaps we could start with drinks next week." Vivian was about to decline when her phone buzzed again. Another message from Maya. If you need an emergency exit, I'm excellent at creating fictional crises. Just say the word. This time, Vivian couldn't suppress her smile entirely. The idea that Maya was thinking about her, offering support even from a distance, filled her with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. I'm afraid I'm not available, Vivian said to Alexander, her tone final. Perhaps another time then, he persisted. No, Vivian said simply. Thank you, but no. As Alexander retreated, looking confused and slightly offended, Julian appeared at Vivian's side again. Okay, now I'm really curious, he said quietly. You just turned down a perfectly eligible bachelor without even considering it. This secretary of yours must be something special. Vivian looked at her brother, seeing genuine concern and affection in his eyes. For a moment, she was tempted to tell him everything about Maya's intelligence, her warmth, the way she made Vivian feel seen and understood for the first time in years, but the words stuck in her throat. It's complicated, she said finally. The best things usually are, Julian replied gently. But Vivian, life's too short to spend it alone. Especially when someone makes you smile like that. As the evening wore on, Vivian found herself checking her phone repeatedly, hoping for another message from Maya. When it finally came, near the end of the party, it was simple but perfect. Hope you survived with minimal casualties. See you Monday. Driving back to the city that night, Vivian realized that something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in her adult life, she was looking forward to Monday not because of work, but because of a person who was slowly, inexorably becoming the most important part of her carefully ordered world. And that terrified her more than any hostile takeover ever could. Monday morning arrived with an unseasonable warmth that had Aurelia Cityers shedding their jackets and opening windows for the first time in weeks. Vivian arrived at the office to find Maya already at her desk, but something was different. There was a tension in the air, an electricity that made Vivian's skin prickle with awareness. Good morning, Miss Kingsley, Maya said, looking up from her computer. She was wearing a deep burgundy blouse that brought out the warmth in her dark eyes, and Vivian found herself staring longer than was professionally appropriate. Morning, Vivian replied, her voice slightly rougher than usual. Any urgent matters? The Aldridge integration is ahead of schedule. The quarterly reports are ready for your review, and your 10 o'clock call to reschedule. Maya's tone was professional, but there was something underneath it, a current of awareness that matched Vivian's own. As Vivian settled into her office, she found herself stealing glances at Maya through the glass partition. Every movement seemed more graceful than usual, every gesture more deliberate. When Maya caught her looking, their eyes met and held for a moment too long before Vivian forced herself to look away. The morning passed in a haze of meetings and conference calls. But Vivian's attention kept drifting to Maya. She noticed the way Maya's fingers moved across the keyboard. The soft sound of her laughter when she took calls. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. It was during the lunch hour when the office had emptied and they were alone that everything changed. Vivian was reviewing contracts when Maya knocked and entered with a cup of coffee and a concerned expression. You missed lunch again? Maya said, setting the coffee down. I ordered from that Italian place you like. It should be here in 20 minutes. You didn't have to do that, Vivian said, but her voice had lost its usual authority. I know, Maya replied, stepping toward the window. But I wanted to. For a moment she stood there, gazing out over the city. And Vivian found herself watching her instead, the elegant line of her neck. The way the afternoon light threaded gold through her hair. Maya, Vivian said quietly. Something in her tone made Maya turn. Their eyes met across the office, and in that suspended moment, Vivian felt the last of her defenses give way. The distance she'd worked so hard to maintain, the rules that had once kept her safe, they all seemed irrelevant now. This is dangerous, Vivian whispered. I know. Maya took a slow step closer. I don't do relationships. I don't do this. I know that, too. Another step. Vivian could smell her perfume now, something soft and floral that made her head spin. Maya, stop thinking so much, Maya said gently, her hand finding Vivian's. The touch sent a jolt through Vivian, sharp and electric. I can't, she whispered, but she didn't pull away. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be vulnerable. Maya's fingers laced with hers, warm and sure. You don't have to know everything, Vivian. Sometimes you just have to trust. Trust, Vivian echoed, like it was a word she hadn't spoken in years. Trust me, Maya said, moving closer. Trust this. Vivian looked into her eyes and saw something that stole her breath, not just desire, but understanding. Acceptance. The quiet promise that she didn't need to be flawless, didn't need to have all the answers. I'm scared, Vivian confessed, barely audible. So am I, Maya murmured. But I'm more afraid of walking away and wondering what if. The space between them vanished as Maya lifted her hand, cupping Vivian's face. Her thumb traced along Vivian's cheekbone with unbearable tenderness. Vivian's eyes fluttered shut, the walls she'd spent a lifetime building collapsing at last. Vivian, Maya whispered. Vivian opened her eyes to find her face inches away from Maya's. Yes, she breathed, not even sure what she was agreeing to, only that she couldn't say no. Not to this. Not to her. When Maya's lips met hers, it felt like both coming home and falling into the unknown. The kiss began soft, tentative, then deepened, slowly, inevitably, as Vivian's hand slid to Maya's waist and drew her closer. Years of loneliness, of keeping everyone at arm's length, of denying herself any kind of human connection. It all melted away in the warmth of Maya's embrace. They broke apart slowly, breathing hard, foreheads touching. We can't, Vivian said. But her hands were still on Maya's waist, still holding her close. We just did, Maya replied with a soft smile. Maya, I'm your boss. The power dynamic, the company policies. Are you firing me? Maya asked. No, of course not. Then we'll figure it out, Maya said simply. Together. Vivian stared at her. This remarkable woman who had walked into her life and turned everything upside down. You make it sound so simple. Maybe it is, Maya replied. Maybe we're the ones making it complicated. Before Vivian could respond, the intercom buzzed. Miss Kingsley, your lunch has arrived, came the voice from reception. They stepped apart reluctantly, the spell broken but not forgotten. Vivian's lips still tingled from the kiss. Her heart still raced from Maya's touch. We should talk, Vivian said. Yes, Maya agreed. But not here. Not like this. My apartment. Tonight, 7 o'clock. The words were out before Vivian could stop them. Maya smiled, that radiant expression that had been haunting Vivian's dreams for weeks. I'll be there. As Maya left to collect the lunch delivery, Vivian sank into her chair. Her mind reeling. She had just crossed a line she had sworn never to cross. Broken rules she had lived by for years. And the most terrifying part wasn't the potential consequences. It was how right it had felt. For the first time in her life, Vivian Kingsley was about to put her heart before her head. And she had no idea what would happen next. Vivian's penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side was a study in controlled elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Crown Park. Minimalist furniture in shades of cream and gray. An artwork that spoke of refined taste and considerable wealth. It was beautiful, sophisticated, and utterly impersonal, like a high-end hotel suite rather than a home. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorman announced Maya's arrival. Vivian had changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on dark jeans and a cashmere sweater, casual by her standards, but still perfectly put together. She had also opened a bottle of wine, then closed it, then opened it again, her nerves getting the better of her usual composure. When Maya stepped off the elevator, Vivian's breath caught. Gone was the professional attire, replaced by a flowing emerald dress that brought out the gold flecks in her dark eyes. Her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and she carried a small bouquet of white roses. I wasn't sure what to bring to the home of someone who has everything, Maya said with a shy smile, offering the flowers. But these reminded me of you. Beautiful, elegant, and stronger than they appear. Vivian accepted the roses, their fingers brushing in the exchange. Thank you. They're lovely. She led Maya into the living room, acutely aware of how sterile her home must seem. Maya moved to the windows, taking in the view with obvious appreciation. It's breathtaking, Maya said. You can see the whole city from here. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching life happen rather than living it. Vivian admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. Maya turned to study her, those perceptive eyes seeing too much as always. Is that why you work so much? To avoid living? Vivian poured 2 glasses of wine, using the activity to avoid Maya's gaze. I work because I'm good at it. Because it's what I know. That's not an answer, Maya said gently, accepting the wine. They settled on the sofa, the space between them charged with unspoken possibilities. Vivian had hosted countless business dinners, charity galas, and social events in this apartment, but she had never felt as nervous as she did now, sitting with Maya in the soft glow of the evening light. "Tell me about your family," Vivian said, deflecting from the uncomfortable territory of her own motivations. Maya smiled, settling back against the cushions. 5 siblings, like I mentioned. I'm the middle child, which means I learned early how to fight for attention and how to mediate conflicts. My parents immigrated from Mexico when I was 3. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. They sacrificed everything so we could have opportunities they never had. That must have been difficult, Vivian said. It was, Maya agreed. But it also taught me that success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about who you lift up along the way. My parents never made a lot of money. But they were rich in the ways that mattered. Vivian felt a pang of something that might have been envy. Her own parents had given her every material advantage, but emotional warmth had been in short supply. What made you want to work for me? Maya's smile turned mischievous. Honestly, I wanted to see if the Ice Queen was as formidable as everyone said. And you're more formidable, Maya said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But you're also more vulnerable than anyone realizes. Vivian set down her wine glass with shaking hands. Maya, I need you to understand something. I don't know how to do this. Relationships, feelings. I've spent my entire adult life avoiding them. Why? Maya asked, moving closer on the sofa. Vivian was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the twinkling lights of the city. When I was 25, I was engaged. His name was Noah, and I thought I loved him. But when my father had his first heart attack and I had to take over more responsibilities at the company, Noah couldn't handle it. He said I cared more about business than about him, that I was cold and ambitious and would never make a good wife. Maya's hand found Vivian's, squeezing gently. He was wrong. Was he? Vivian asked, finally meeting Maya's eyes. I chose the company over him. I chose success over love, and I've been making that same choice ever since. Maybe, Maya said softly. You just hadn't found the right person to choose. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Vivian felt her heart racing, her carefully constructed defenses crumbling under Maya's gentle assault. Maya, if we do this, if we try this, everything changes. The office, our professional relationship, everything. I know, Maya replied. But Vivian, what we have now isn't sustainable. This tension, this connection, it's not going away. We can either acknowledge it and deal with it honestly, or we can pretend it doesn't exist and drive ourselves crazy. Vivian stood abruptly, moving to the window. The city spread out below her like a glittering circuit board. Millions of lights representing millions of lives, millions of choices. I could lose everything. My reputation, my company, my credibility. Maya joined her at the window, standing close enough that Vivian could feel her warmth, or you could gain everything you never knew you wanted. Vivian turned to face her, and the vulnerability in Maya's expression took her breath away. This brave, brilliant woman was offering her heart. Despite all the obstacles, despite all the reasons, it was a terrible idea. I'm terrified, Vivian whispered. So am I, Maya replied, reaching up to cup Vivian's face. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. This time, when Maya kissed her, Vivian didn't hesitate. She melted into the embrace, her hands tangling in Maya's hair, her heart finally overruling her head. The kiss was deeper than their first, full of promise and possibility, and the sweet terror of stepping into the unknown. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Vivian rested her forehead against Maya's. What happens now? Vivian asked. Now? Maya said with a smile that lit up her entire face. We figure it out together. As they stood there in the soft glow of the city lights, Vivian realized that for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she wanted to be. The future was uncertain. The challenges ahead were real. But with Maya's hand in hers, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The Ice Queen was melting, and Vivian Kingsley was finally learning what it meant to be truly alive. 3 months later, the Kingsley Tower hummed with its usual energy. But something fundamental had shifted on the 42nd floor. Vivian still arrived at 6 a.m., still commanded boardrooms with icy precision. Still struck fear into the hearts of competitors across the globe. But now when she returned to her office, there was warmth waiting for her. Maya had officially transitioned to the role of executive assistant, a promotion that came with increased responsibilities and a salary that reflected her true value to the company. More importantly, it provided a professional framework that allowed them to work together without raising too many eyebrows about their personal relationship. The morning sun streamed through the Florida-ceiling windows as Vivian reviewed the final details of the Hartwell acquisition. A deal that would expand Kingsley Industries into renewable energy and cement Vivian's reputation as a visionary leader. Maya entered with coffee and the morning briefings, but also with something else. A small wrapped package. "What's this?" Vivian asked, looking up from her papers. "Happy 6-month anniversary," Maya said with a smile that still had the power to stop Vivian's heart. Vivian stared at the package, then at Maya. "You remembered." "I remember everything about you, Vivian Kingsley," Maya replied, perching on the edge of the desk in a gesture that would have been unthinkable from any other employee. Vivian unwrapped the gift carefully, revealing a small silver frame containing a photo she had never seen before. It showed her laughing at something Maya had said during a company retreat. Her face relaxed and genuinely happy in a way that Vivian barely recognized. "When did you take this?" Vivian asked, her voice soft with emotion. "Last month when we were reviewing the sustainability proposals. You made a joke about solar panels and corporate responsibility. And for just a moment, you forgot to be the ice queen." Maya's fingers traced the edge of the frame. "I wanted you to see yourself the way I see you." Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. Another impossibility that Maya had made possible. "Maya," the intercom buzzed, interrupting the moment. "Miss Kingsley. The board members are arriving for the 10 o'clock meeting." Vivian composed herself quickly, slipping back into her professional persona. "Send them to conference room A. I'll be there in 5 minutes." As Maya moved to leave, Vivian caught her hand. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything," Maya squeezed her hand gently. "Go show them why you're the most formidable CEO in Aurelia City." The board meeting was a triumph. The Hartwell acquisition was approved unanimously. The quarterly profits exceeded all projections and Vivian's strategic vision for the company's future was met with enthusiastic support. As the board members filed out, congratulating her on another successful quarter, Vivian felt the familiar rush of professional satisfaction. But it was different now. The victory felt hollow without someone to share it with, someone who understood not just the business implications, but the personal cost of her success. "Congratulations, Vivian," came a voice from the doorway. She turned to see Julian, impeccably dressed as always, but with an expression of genuine pride. "Julian, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to hear about the Hartwell deal firsthand," he said, closing the door behind him. "And to see how you're doing, really doing." Vivian studied her brother's face, seeing the concern and affection there. Over the past few months, their relationship had slowly begun to thaw, partly due to Maya's gentle encouragement that family was worth the effort. "I'm good," Vivian said. And for the first time in years, she meant it. "You look good," Julian agreed. "Different, happier," he paused, then smiled. "It's Maya, isn't it?" Vivian felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she didn't deny it. "It's complicated." "The best things usually are," Julian said, echoing his words from months earlier. "But Vivian, I haven't seen you this alive since. Well, ever. Whatever you two have figured out, it's working." Before Vivian could respond, Maya appeared in the doorway. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Senator Aldridge is on line 1 about the environmental initiative." "Take a message," Vivian said. "I'll call him back in an hour." Maya nodded and turned to leave, but Julian called out to her. "Maya, wait. I don't think we've been properly introduced. I'm Julian. Vivian's infinitely more charming younger brother." Maya laughed. A sound that never failed to make Vivian's heart hitch. "I've heard a lot about you," Vivian said. "You're the family diplomat." "Among other things," Julian replied with a grin. "I'm also an excellent judge of character, and I can see why my sister is so taken with you." Vivian shot him a warning glance, but Maya only smiled. "She's pretty remarkable herself." "That she is," Julian agreed. "Though I suspect you're the first to see past the armor to the woman underneath." The thought was cut short by Vivian's phone buzzing with an urgent text. One look and her blood ran cold. An unknown number, an unmistakable message, interesting photos from the company retreat. Would hate for them to end up in the wrong hands. We should talk. Color drained from Vivian's face. Maya caught it instantly. What is it? Vivian handed over the phone and watched Maya's expression pass from confusion to comprehension to anger. Blackmail, Maya said softly. It appears so, Vivian answered, mind already sprinting through worst-case scenarios. Someone had been watching them, documenting, waiting to strike. Julian's demeanor shifted. What kind of photos? Nothing indecent, Maya said quickly. But enough to show we're close. Vivian felt the old defenses click back into place, protective instincts rising like steel. Maya, maybe we should. No, Maya moved beside her chair, steady as a shield. We are not letting some coward with a camera destroy what we have. Maya, you don't understand. If this gets out, it could wreck everything, my reputation, the company, your career. Then we get ahead of it, Maya cut in. We tell the story ourselves instead of letting someone else write it for us. Vivian stared at her, this woman ready to stare down scandal, gossip, even career suicide for them. What are you suggesting? Maya drew a breath, that fearless confidence Vivian had noticed on day one returning to her eyes. We stop hiding. We share our truth, our way, before anyone else can. Julian cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think Maya's right. The business world's changed, Vivian. Results matter more than personal lives now. Vivian looked between Maya and Julian, seeing the support and love in their faces. For so long, she had faced every challenge alone, relying only on herself and her own strength. But now, she had something she had never had before. People who believed in her not just as a CEO, but as a person. All right, Vivian said finally, reaching for Maya's hand. Let's break all the rules. As the afternoon sun slanted through the windows of the 42nd floor, Vivian Kingsley made a decision that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. She was going to choose love over fear, vulnerability over control, and Maya over everything else. The Ice Queen was gone, replaced by a woman who had finally learned that the greatest victories weren't won in boardrooms, but in the quiet moments when two hearts chose to trust each other completely. And as Maya squeezed her hand and smiled that radiant smile, Vivian knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because some rules were meant to be broken, and some risks were worth taking. The billionaire CEO had at last allowed someone to cross her boundaries, and in doing so, she uncovered something worth more than any empire, herself.